Something changed in the atmosphere this month. Not a storm, not a heat wave, not a tornado or a flood, though all of those have been happening too. Something deeper, something that operates at a scale that individual weather events cannot capture. Something that meteorologists are describing, according to reports, as a major atmospheric reset, a fundamental reorganization of the global circulation system that will define not just the rest of this summer, but the autumn, the winter of 2026 into 2027, and potentially the years beyond. According to sourced information from Severe Weather Europe, published in their most recent analysis just 2 days ago, the Super El Nino is now breaking into the atmosphere, not just forming in the ocean, not just warming the Pacific surface, breaking into the atmosphere, crossing the boundary from an oceanic signal into an atmospheric one. And according to reports from the same verified source, this transition is being detected in real-time data right now in July 2026, earlier than most El Nino events reach this stage. Meteorologists around the world, according to reports, are monitoring it closely. Because when the atmosphere shifts like this, everything downstream, every weather pattern, every seasonal forecast, every extreme event probability shifts with it. Today, we are going to explain what this atmospheric shift is, what the Walker cell is and why it is the key to understanding what is happening, what NASA has detected in the Pacific that is accelerating this process, what the verified summer to fall forecast shift means for the United States, Canada, and Europe, and why meteorologists are being careful and watchful about what comes next. This is a story about invisible forces that shape visible consequences, and it is happening right now. The Walker cell, the engine of the shift. According to sourced information from multiple verified Severe Weather Europe analyses published between May and July 2026, the key to understanding the current atmospheric shift lies in understanding one specific feature of the global atmospheric circulation, the Walker cell. According to reports, the Walker cell is the name given to the pattern of rising and sinking atmospheric motion in the tropical regions of the planet. In normal, neutral conditions, what scientists call an ENSO-neutral atmosphere, the Walker cell operates in a specific configuration. Warm, moist air rises over the western Pacific and the maritime continent, the region encompassing Indonesia, the Philippines, and surrounding areas. This rising air flows eastward at high altitude, then descends over the cooler eastern Pacific near South America. At the surface, trade winds blow westward, from the Americas toward Asia, completing the circuit. This is the normal planetary conveyor belt of tropical atmospheric circulation. According to reports from Severe Weather Europe, citing European Space Agency schematics and verified meteorological analysis, when a strong El Nino develops, and especially when a super El Nino develops, this Walker cell configuration reverses. The warm water that normally pools in the western Pacific shifts eastward toward the central and eastern Pacific. Rising air, which generates rainfall and low pressure, moves with it. Sinking air, which produces dry, high-pressure conditions, shifts toward the Indian Ocean and the maritime continent. The trade winds weaken or reverse. The entire tropical atmospheric conveyor belt changes its direction and intensity. According to reports from Severe Weather Europe's most recent July 2026 analysis, published just 2 days ago, meteorologists can now detect this exact configuration in the live forecast data, using a parameter called velocity potential, which tracks the areas of rising and sinking air in the atmosphere. The latest July 2026 forecast shows a strong anomaly of rising air in the Pacific and sinking air in the Indian Ocean. According to the same sourced reports, this is described by meteorologist Ben Knoll, whose imagery was cited in the analysis, as confirming a very clear El Nino configuration in the atmosphere this summer. According to the same verified Severe Weather Europe reporting, this Walker cell confirmation in July 2026 is significant because El Nino events usually peak later than summer. The fact that the atmospheric circulation signal is this clear this early in July suggests, according to reports, that the event is developing faster and more powerfully than historical analogs, and that faster development has direct implications for what the coming months will look like. And what scientists found when they looked deeper into the ocean beneath that circulation is what is causing the most careful monitoring. NASA detects a major Pacific anomaly, the ocean signal. According to sourced information from Severe Weather Europe's verified reporting, citing NASA satellite analysis, the space agency has detected a major sea level height anomaly along the tropical Pacific, where warm subsurface water is rising and expanding as the Super El Nino event strengthens. This is not a metaphor. It is a measurable, satellite-detected physical phenomenon. When ocean temperatures rise significantly in a large area, the water expands. Warm water occupies more volume than cool water. This thermal expansion raises the sea surface level in the affected region. NASA's satellite altimetry systems, which measure sea surface height with extraordinary precision from orbit, are, according to verified reports, detecting exactly this signal across the tropical Pacific right now. The warm water anomaly that is driving the Super El Nino is not just a surface temperature reading. It is a three-dimensional mass of warm water that is physically raising the ocean surface in the affected region. According to reports from Severe Weather Europe, citing the ECMWF extended forecast, the latest ocean temperature forecast now reaches into November 2026, revealing temperature anomalies that exceed +2 degrees across the whole ENSO monitoring region, the threshold that officially defines a Super El Nino. According to the same sourced reports, the NCEPA CFS V2 model, NOAA's operational forecast system, tells a very similar story, with a very strong El Nino developing and exceeding the Super El Nino threshold of +2 degrees, having an immediate impact on the summer, fall, and winter patterns. According to verified reports from the most recent Severe Weather Europe analysis, published just 2 days ago, the warm anomaly is expected to reach into the +4 to 5 degree range at peak strength. That would place this event, according to reports, among the strongest ENSO events ever recorded. The ECMWF, according to sourced information, is showing a growing warm anomaly signature expected to reach into the +4 to 5 degree anomalies at peak strength. Numbers that, according to verified scientific analysis, would represent a historic event. And as that ocean signal crosses into the atmosphere, as the Walker cell confirms the transition, the forecast for every region on Earth begins to shift in ways that are now being carefully tracked. The pattern shift. What is changing for fall 2026? According to sourced information from Severe Weather, Europe's verified fall 2026 forecast analysis, published 2 weeks ago, the Super El Nino is now setting up what the analysis describes as a winter-like weather pattern that strengthens into January. This is a striking characterization, a summer and autumn shaped by forces that normally define winter circulation, and it demands explanation. According to reports from the same verified source, a strong El Nino causes a pressure drop in the central and eastern tropical Pacific and a high pressure zone over the western Pacific. According to reports, this has a major influence on the tropical rainfall and pressure patterns filtering into the mid-latitudes and the global weather system. The mechanism through which tropical ocean temperatures reshape weather thousands of miles away, in the United States, Canada, and Europe, is what Severe Weather Europe calls an atmospheric bridge. The tropical signal is not contained in the tropics. It is transmitted through the atmosphere to higher latitudes, reshaping jet stream patterns and altering the probability of specific weather outcomes across the northern hemisphere. According to verified reports from Severe Weather Europe's fall 2026 forecast, the ECMWF extended forecast shows what the analysis describes as an almost fixed, or stationary area of rising air and low pressure over the tropical Pacific, what scientists call an atmospheric standing wave. According to the same sourced reporting, this standing wave is the most clear hello world signal of the Super El Nino, now starting to embed its influence into the seasonal temperature and precipitation patterns. For the United States specifically, according to verified reports, the fall pattern shift associated with a Super El Nino of this strength historically brings warmer temperatures across the northern tier, including the northern plains, the Great Lakes region, and the Pacific Northwest. At the same time, the southern United States, particularly the Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana, and the Southeast, typically sees above average precipitation during strong El Nino events as the storm track shifts southward. The West, according to reports, may see above average winter rainfall in California, which would be welcome relief for drought-affected regions, but which also brings elevated flood and landslide risk to areas where wildfire has removed stabilizing vegetation. For Europe, according to sourced information from the same verified Severe Weather Europe analysis, the Super El Nino influence is expected to filter through the atmospheric bridge and affect jet stream positioning, with implications for the storminess of the autumn and winter seasons. The European signal, according to reports, is less direct than the North American one, but the pattern shift is, according to verified analysis, beginning to show up in extended model forecasts. The severe weather shift. What is already changing on the ground? The atmospheric shift is not theoretical. According to reports from multiple verified sources, its fingerprints are already visible in the weather events of the past several weeks across the United States, in patterns that meteorologists are connecting to the emerging El Nino atmospheric configuration. According to sourced information from ABC News, published in the past week, a confluence of meteorological conditions, including an upper-level disturbance interacting with a mesoscale convective vortex, caused a storm system to essentially sit over Texas Hill Country, dumping torrential rain for multiple days. Texas A&M University professor and Texas state climatologist John Nielsen Gammon described the upper-level ridge as unusually strong, allowing the system to have a completely clockwise circulation that parked it over the region rather than moving it through. According to reports from the same verified ABC News analysis, the disturbance then combined with a warm, low-pressure circulation that pumped moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, causing days of heavy rainfall. According to sourced information from the Washington Times, citing verified AP reporting and 3 meteorologists who spoke to the news agency, the heat dome that baked more than 200 million Americans through late June and early July 2026 was itself an expression of the blocking high pattern, a high-pressure atmospheric feature described as having a lid that stalled directly over the country, trapping intense surface heat. According to reports from the same verified source, one of those 3 meteorologists said the heat wave would be significant and dangerous, and warned that the dome could shift and wobble, maybe even spreading from coast to coast over the next 10 days or more. According to verified reports from Spectrum News, published July 23, 2026, as the atmospheric pattern shifts with El Niño's influence, severe weather patterns also shift. The analysis confirmed that, climatologically, the ingredients needed for major thunderstorms become less common as heat takes over and winds aloft relax in late summer. However, according to reports from the same sourced analysis, the outer bands of tropical storms and hurricanes often bring tornadoes that spin up quickly, and thunderstorms can tap into the heat and humidity and become destructive windstorms known as derechos. The shift from the tornado-dominant severe weather of spring and early summer toward the tropical-influenced severe weather of late summer and autumn is itself a pattern shift that meteorologists are monitoring carefully. According to reports, Colorado recorded the highest number of large hail reports during early summer 2026, consistent, according to verified meteorological analysis, with the climatological pattern for the region and season, but at elevated intensity in the context of the broader heat and atmospheric energy loading of this summer. What meteorologists are watching right now. Today, July 26th, according to sourced information from the WMTV First Alert forecast for Sunday, July 26th, 2026, meteorologists today are on alert for a combination of dangerous heat and isolated severe storms to start the week. This heat and storms pairing, which has been the recurring pattern of summer 2026, is itself a signature of the atmospheric configuration that the Super El Niño is reinforcing. According to reports from Severe Weather Europe's most recent analysis published just 2 days ago, meteorologists are specifically monitoring what the source describes as the Super El Niño reaching record strength, with new ECMWF extended forecasts showing the atmospheric standing wave formation becoming more locked in, creating more fixed areas of rising and sinking air across the globe. According to verified reports from the same sourced analysis, the current ECMWF extended forecast for September 2026 shows a strong anomaly of rising air over the Pacific and sinking air in the Indian Ocean, confirming that the El Niño atmospheric configuration is expected to persist and deepen through summer and into autumn. This persistence, according to reports, is what makes the current situation different from a simple weather pattern change. Ordinary weather patterns shift and evolve week by week. An El Niño-embedded atmospheric pattern can lock in for months, creating what scientists call an atmospheric standing wave that reorganizes global weather persistently rather than temporarily. According to verified reports, the NOAA NCEP CFS-V2 model and the ECMWF are in agreement on the direction and magnitude of this shift. According to sourced information from Severe Weather Europe, the current 2026 development shows a similar signature to the previous strongest events, forecast to rise even higher as one of the strongest events on record. The monitoring is not precautionary. It is, according to reports, a response to a signal that is already present in the live forecast data today. What this means for the rest of 2026. According to sourced information from all verified meteorological reporting reviewed for this analysis, the atmospheric shift that began with the Super El Niño breaking into the atmosphere in July 2026 will have identifiable consequences through the rest of the year. For the United States, according to verified reports, the summer will continue to be shaped by the interplay between the El Niño-enhanced heat and the severe weather events that result from the collision of that heat with approaching frontal systems. The pattern of extreme heat followed by violent storm transitions, which has characterized June and July 2026, is expected to continue through the remainder of summer. For autumn, according to verified reports from Severe Weather Europe's fall 2026 forecast, the Super El Niño is expected to reinforce a high-pressure area over the northern regions, bringing above-average temperatures to the northern United States and Canada while shifting storm tracks southward. The southern United States, the Gulf Coast, and the southeast are expected to see above average precipitation, consistent with historical El Niño autumn patterns. For the Atlantic hurricane season, which officially began June 1st and extends through November 30th, according to verified reports from Severe Weather Europe, El Niño conditions typically reduce the overall number of Atlantic tropical systems by increasing upper-level wind shear that disrupts hurricane formation. However, according to the same sourced reports, the record warm Atlantic Ocean temperatures, which remain exceptionally high despite El Niño's suppression effect, mean that the hurricane risk picture remains complex and uncertain. For Europe, according to reports, the fall pattern influenced by the atmospheric bridge from the tropical Pacific will manifest in jet stream positioning changes that affect the frequency and intensity of Atlantic storm systems approaching the continent. The outcome, according to verified reports, is still developing in model data, but the signal of El Niño influence on European autumn weather is, according to reports, beginning to emerge. Final word: the shift that defines the rest of the year. Something changed in the atmosphere this month. According to all verified scientific reporting reviewed for this analysis, from Severe Weather Europe, from NASA satellite data, from NOAA's operational models, from the ECMWF's extended forecasts, from meteorologists at Texas A&M, the University of Georgia, and institutions across the world. That change is real, measurable, and now confirmed in live forecast data. The Super El Niño has broken into the atmosphere. The Walker cell has shifted. The atmospheric standing wave is forming. The NASA satellite has detected the sea level anomaly in the tropical Pacific that marks a historic ocean warming event. And the downstream consequences for summer heat and storms, for autumn precipitation patterns, for the hurricane season, for the winter that will follow, are now beginning to appear in the forecast data that meteorologists around the world are monitoring every day. According to reports from Severe Weather Europe, this is a major atmospheric reset. According to verified reports from multiple sources, it will be the main global weather driver in 2026 and 2027. According to sourced information from the scientists watching it, it is developing faster and more powerfully than most historical analogs. And according to all verified reporting, it is not yet close to its peak. The atmospheric shift just began. The consequences are ahead. And meteorologists are watching every signal, every model run, every satellite pass, because what happens next will define the weather of this year and beyond. Stay with us, because when the atmosphere shifts like this, everything downstream shifts too. This has been your complete verified breakdown of the dangerous atmospheric shift now underway, July 26th, 2026. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay with us for every update.